Welcome to CFO Talk. I'm your host, Steve Roosevelt, Chief Learning Officer at CFO.University. Joining us today from the heart of America's breadbasket, Wichita, Kansas, is Lynn Guinn. Lynn is an eclectic business leader whose career has included roles in accounting, operations, and trading before becoming the strategic global pricing leader at Cargill. Lynn did his undergraduate studies in finance and accounting and ag economics at West Texas A&M University and holds advanced degrees in strategy and innovation from INSEAD. Welcome, Lynn. As a Cargill alumnus, it is a big treat for me to have you on CFO Talk.
Well, Steve, thanks for the invitation.
I think this is such an important area of pricing that in the past, CFOs and finance leaders have stayed below the margin when it comes to the P&L. And I think that's really changing quickly, and understanding pricing, which you are an expert, is really going to help our audience and our community. So I appreciate you coming on again. One of the things I wanted to start with, before we jump into pricing strategy, can you tell us a little about your career journey and your professional roots?
Much like most of your audience, I started in the finance side, no doubt. I grew up you talked about my academic background. I definitely studied the business track coming up and ag econ as well. But I grew up on the controller side and the financial analyst originally coming into the business. From there, I worked in the plants, and some of our plants, they're billion-dollar plus plants, so they're not small plants by any means. And some of those plants today are multi-billion dollars that worked in those days. But from there, I moved over into operations. So I had the great fortune of some of the business leaders in Cargill, which you were a part of for a number of years as well, of identifying different set of skills, talents, and saying there's huge opportunity for you to do different things in this organization, have a broader background that will grow your career even more than just being in finance. So I moved over into operations and then went into international operations. I was in Australia for about 4 years, working in the APAC as well. And then moved back to the U.S. after that, and then went into trading just for a little bit, and strategy, and then finally into sales and strategic pricing. And I have spent the bulk of my career now in the strategic pricing area in both our businesses and the protein and salt enterprise, then also in our food ingredients and bioindustrial enterprise, before then becoming an enterprise pricing leader. And now I lead strategic pricing and the commercial excellence COE for all of Cargill.
And for those who don't know, Cargill is, I don't know if they're still one of the biggest privately held companies in the world, I suspect, but they stay under the radar screen I wouldn't call it commodity. I'm sure there's value-added businesses, but Cargill's a mammoth company, and you don't hear much about them because of their private status and the products that they move in.
Just on our size, just to put it in comparison, if we were publicly traded, we would be in the Fortune 20. And okay. We're over 175 billion.
Yeah, that's even a little more than when I was there. So it made some good progress. That's great. Let's get to the task at hand, talking about pricing. And one of the things I just wanted to see your reaction when I asked you, if somebody brings up, hey, we use cost plus pricing in our business, what kind of reaction, initial response would you have?
Plus is a price type. It is not the only price type, and it is probably not the price type that maximizes profitability for your business. It's probably the easiest to do, no doubt. So long as you've got good understanding of what your costs are and what your costs are going to be. It's not that it's a bad thing, but it shouldn't be the only thing that is driving your pricing strategy or the outcomes of your business. Because if you do that, you're purely, honestly, a marginal player, and you're most definitely not maximizing the value of your organization if you're just purely selling based on a cost plus.
Let me ask the question a different way. In the past 10 years, how many times have you recommended to a business leader that they use cost plus pricing at Cargill?
It's never going to be non-existent. It's always going to be there as a price type. Should be managed as a portfolio. And if you only have cost plus, you actually are not managing your portfolio of customer, your portfolio of product, your portfolio of price type. You're under managing it. So you're going to have suboptimal profitability outcomes if that's the only thing you're doing.
You spend a lot of time in segmentation that I think revolves around the customer. Can you tell us more about how you use segmentation in your pricing policy?
So we look at customer segmentation very deeply in all of our businesses. It doesn't matter what they are. So we have 4 enterprises, over 70 businesses that make up the mass of Cargill. But we look at segmentation in every one of them. What we look at is how are we serving those customers relative to the value that they seek from us and the value that they need to run their business. Because a lot of times we are a cog in their wheel of their supply chain. We have a few direct consumer products, but not as many. We're more of a B2B than we are B2C. We have the B2C. Actually, we have a large B2C, but we're more B2B. So we really want to understand what value we're delivering to those customers. And through segmentation, when we look at it, we look at all the attributes of customer. We'll take it even deeper from a customer segmentation down to a pricing segmentation. And when we go into the pricing segmentation, then we look at the attributes of customer, the attributes of product, the attributes of competition, regionality, et cetera, as well as the attribute of order. Because all those things matter in the time frames that we sell and the quantities that we sell, the volumes we sell, who we sell to, what's the competitive environment. And we bring all those things together to really build a holistic understanding of what is our customer seeking to get from us, what are we able to deliver, and are we delivering the value that our customer wants and needs from us.
Do customers want to tell you all that, or do you guys have to use other means to find out?
Now, there's hardly a customer in the world that will sit down across the desk from you and say, I want A, B, C, D, all the way to Z. That requires an inquisitive and curious commercial team that we work directly with every day. Let's talk about them on my board right over there, different buyer types and how do you probe, how do you draw that information out of customers. Some of it in publicly traded customers, it's amazing how much they actually tell you on written financial statements. You could just go and say, hey, this is what's going to matter to them. And then it's pretty straightforward with that. Say, hey, this is what you're telling the entire world. This is what matters to you. So we understand that. We're going to help you deliver on what you're saying is important to you. With privately owned customers, you obviously have to dig a little bit more, but they never will tell you everything. So we have to ask a lot of probing questions and get deeper into it. And this is one thing I would say also in that segmentation, we have evolved to where our analysis and understanding of where a customer is segmented is a quantitative segmentation beyond a qualitative segmentation. And the qualitative attributes that may be in there, we convert into quantitative measures so that we can actually compare apples and look at customers in a similar way. That drives our segmentation so that we can really get to the heart of being able to serve customers in the way that is most meaningful for them.
I suspect it's more complicated than this, but if you say they're a 56, their customer's a 56, is that, would you quantify, is that, or is it like the Myers-Briggs test where you're going to catch?
Yeah, it's more like Myers-Briggs where you have attributes on like the MBTI when you're talking that. So you have different attributes and there's scoring in each one of the quadrants, similar to what Myers-Briggs would do.
I'm going to ask you more about that in a little bit and see if I can extract some secrets from you. But for right now, this whole concept about getting information and customers maybe not wanting to get all the information that you need to really do good segmentation, that's not only for Cargill, but it's also for the customer's benefit, not giving services that they don't need. That doesn't make sense to them. But how can the CFO and the finance teams help you with gathering information, analyzing information to make your job better?
We have I would say, an outstanding working relationship with our partners in the finance organization in Cargill. It doesn't matter whether it's at the corporate level, down at the enterprise level, or down at the business level. We have a fantastic working relationship, just like we do with all the commercial teams, because you have to. This is a team sport. There is no I in this. This takes a team to do, and it takes the investment of in the individuals that make that team up to really work together to bring out the best answers. For your question from the finance side, we get a lot of direct intel from them, but I will be honest, we supply a whole lot more intel than we get because we're closer to the customers. So we're able to feed that back up in our integrated business planning process, which, boils all the way up to the CFO level. Whenever you're looking at the demand plan and the margin plans relative to the supply plans before it rolls all the way up into the integrated business planning process, that's a large part of that's coming from our side in the analysis of saying, here's where margin structures are going to be, going forward, because we have to forecast out 24 months and say, here's where we're going to be relative to the profitability of the business, so that we can make the right investment decisions, how that then rolls into our capital plans, our acquisition plans, all those things. You've got to generate free cash flow to make those bad JVs work. They don't work without cash. So we have to generate the cash to make it happen. But that partnership is really strong. And to the point that then some of the CFOs, equivalent CFOs of our enterprises, they'll call up occasionally and say, hey, Lynn, where's my next 80 million in earnings going to come from? And we usually know where there's opportunities, and we'll say, hey, you should probably go look at this, put a little bit more pressure in this area, and we'll be able to do some.
There was a center of excellence for global pricing 20 years ago in Cargill. And in fact, I've talked to a few people about it and said, do you have a global pricing? And even that, let alone a center of excellence. But it's not common. It's not people, what is that? And maybe we could take a second, if you don't mind, it's a little off script, but the center of excellence in your global pricing, tell us how that evolved and why it's been so critical.
Strategic pricing is a function, just like finance. It is just like HR, just like legal. It's a function. And to your point, it didn't exist and in that structure, and 15 years ago, it didn't. So we've evolved and grown it because the drive for growth, profitability, and margin management has been so strong, and we've delivered on it year after year, continuing to elevate the business. The Center of Excellence itself effectively evolved from one of our enterprises, which was the food ingredients and bioindustrial enterprise back in 2014, so back almost 10 years. They said, look, we need to take what we're doing over here, which is what I was doing in a business, and so we need to propagate that and do that in 3 businesses, 24 businesses across the world. At that time, they basically elevated, created roles that never existed. To your point, these roles never existed before, and said, hey, we want to take these capabilities and build these out in these other businesses so that we are in a better position to drive the earnings and the profitability of the business through strategic pricing. So we went and did that in the food ingredients and bioindustrial area. And then, lo and behold, a few years later, Cargill says, damn, we need to do that everywhere. I saw the Cargill. And so then we created a commercial excellence COE at the Cargill level that does this. And then we have an interrelationship with every commercial function in the COE. So we have marketing, brand, strategic pricing, route to market, all the things that we have in the commercial side all come together. Sales ops and enablement all come together in the commercial excellence COE. And our job is to go out and drive the capability and build the capacity and the teams to be able to do it and deliver on the responsibility that we carry on these shoulders to drive more earnings and more profitability for the business.
It's interesting. Once again, I'll remind everyone your background is controlling and finance and that whole area. So it's fun that you've taken a really interesting career journey.
If you don't have the financial background to do this, it gets really difficult. If I look around the world, and we probably have we have 70 businesses, and if you look at it across the world, we probably have 230 pricing people across the world, and probably over half have finance backgrounds, because you understand the business, you understand the metrics, you understand the financial responsibility, you understand activity-based costing so that you know what your real margin structures are, you understand what cost to serve is so that you know that if we're over-serving a customer relative to what they're paying and the customer profitability or the product line profitability or the product margins don't make sense, you say, hey, wait a minute. If we're not going to make some changes in this area, either through pricing or through change in service or change in product offering or deal offer structure, then we're not going to achieve the profitability that we want. It really helps to have that analytical background with the commercial background to be able to bring it all together. And you can't do it with pure analytics, and you can't do it with pure commercial. You have to do it with the combined effort of both the analytics understanding and that commercial business understanding of how you can actually drive the business forward. And then after all that, you got to be able to communicate it. Because if you can't figure it out, you can't tell others that this is what we need to do and this is how we need to do it, you very rarely are going to be successful. You've got to be able to tell the story once you figure out what to do.
When you think about our capabilities, what do people need to start working out? What should business leaders be looking at when it's building center of excellence, pricing, strategic pricing capability?
The things that you just brought up, and we focus on people first. You've got to have the right team. And it doesn't matter whether you're playing sports or whether you're in business or whether you're doing strategic pricing, whether you're in finance, you've got to have the right team. You got to have the team with the skills that knows what to do, when to do it. And what we really strive for when we talk about that capability building is what we're out to drive is better decisions. Decisions create dollars. That's how you make money. You make better decisions. When we put that capability in play in people, then we come behind it with processes that are they're not cookie cutter processes, but they are similar processes that drive desired outcomes. And then to support those people and processes, then we deploy technology and the data that push that in there so that we become much more efficient at what we're doing and being able to service the customers. Because you got to think, we have hundreds of thousands of customers, hundreds of thousands. We have hundreds of thousands of products. So the combination of all that creates a large amount of complexity, and you have to have the systems and the tools to help you manage that complexity. We have AI capabilities to be able to bring all those things together, both in-house and purchase from the market. And the finance side of the house, which is a large part of your audience, where their biggest support really needs to come from, is making sure that they enable the right teams to be built, they fund them correctly, and then they support the development of the tools, which oftentimes are data and technology tools to be able to do this. And you're not going to do this well inside an ERP. An ERP is designed to run your business. What you really need to have is a commercial ecosystem on the front end that is where we play, that tells the ERP what to do. Because if you tell the ERP what to do, it does it really well. But if you make the ERP try to figure out how to sell something, how to price something, how to create value, it's not designed for that. So you really need to put these tools and invest in these tools that help your teams to determine what that value is for those customers so that it can tell your ERPs what to do so that the rest of your business can go execute.
You have distilled your pricing philosophy, or at least your process, into a one-pager. I don't know how much you can share with us on that, but I'd love to hear you explain what that one-pager includes, because I think it'll help the audience understand what's important.
First off, I'll say it's proprietary, so I won't show it to your audience. I'll go in a little bit of detail just to help to explain it. So as with anything that you're doing, we start at the very center, and the heart of it is the strategy of the business. Because the first word in strategic pricing comes from strategy. We can execute any strategy we want to execute through the commercial side of the business. We just need to make sure we understand it, know what it is, and then take it out. And from there, then we encircle that with the three things that we talked about just in the previous few minutes, was with the people, the processes, technology, and data, to be able to build the structure around that, then to be able to take that out to 4 quadrants that we have. And we have a quadrant in the upper right that sum it up. I call it the knowledge quadrant. But the knowledge quadrant is, what's our competitive analysis? What are our S&Ds like? What are our economic value estimation, our value to customer? So do the homework, the knowledge that has to exist there. Some of that's external, some of that's internal, but it's really that good understanding. And then as we move down, so it's, if you envision it in 4 quadrants, so that's the upper right quadrant. And if you move to the bottom right quadrant, that's really where we go in and start devising what strategies to deploy. What do our deal offer structures look like? How do we want to take the segmentation that we created in the knowledge area, bring it down and deploy it into our pricing strategies and our price types, et cetera. And then before we move it over to the bottom left quadrant, which is where our execution, that's where the rubber hits the road when we take it, our sales team takes it to the street with our customer. That's where we actually deploy like we have Salesforce.com as a customer-facing tool, but the negotiation capabilities that we have and how that deal offer structure is then presented to the customer to close the deal. And then finally, in our upper left quadrant is what most people actually see, hear, and know about strategic pricing, is where the heavy metrics, the heavy analytics, the hardcore analysis. So it really actually starts in the upper left corner, but we always say we have this virtuous cycle that is a giant blue circle that connects everything, and it's continuous improvement. We know we're never done. Our competition doesn't stand still. Our customers don't have the same expectations today that they had yesterday that they'll have tomorrow. We have to keep improving our quality of delivery, our capabilities in our business, and the value that we're delivering to those customers. And we have to continue to understand what that value is so that we price that accordingly through to the products, the services, the financing capabilities that we have. Whenever we price something, we say we are selling a product, we're selling a service, and we're selling financing. All bundled into, it may be high fructose corn syrup, but that's what, it's got all those 3 components in there, and those are very complex things to build the price around and the value that is created in those three areas as well.
When you talk about data and the analytics, you have data scientists that are helping you work in this. Are they part of that 240-person team? Or
Most of our people are more pricing people, pricing analysts. We do have a few data scientists that'd be PhD level. The thing though that we found is more of the stuff that we can buy off the shelf than anyone in your audience out there can buy. It's really good. We use more external purchased products than we build ourselves by far. We do build our own because there's certain use cases we have that nobody else in the world has, so we build that. But the stuff that you can buy off the market, it's exceptional, and they just keep getting better. And they're not that expensive for the values that they create. For your finance people, your returns on investment and the kind of things that we're talking about, you don't measure them in double-digit returns. You measure them in triple and quadruple-digit returns on investment.
I think that's really important because some of them are probably hard to give a specific numbers to. And that's where the finance people can say, hey, give me a hard number on this investment. What does that look like? And being open enough to understand the capabilities. That's why I think it's so important that they hear your message and what the possibilities are, because they're the ones who are going to control some of those purse strings.
Yeah. I do this simple analysis all the time whenever this discussion comes up. We'll go spend an enormous amount of millions, if not $1 billion, on capital investment. And if we went and generated a 16% IRR, we'd probably be very happy about it, because that basically says 16% return on investment. We're pretty happy with that. If you think about, I'll give you $6 to get $1 back, round numbers, right?
Yeah.
That's basically it. The absolute worst case we've ever done, absolute by far worst case, is you give me $1, I'll give you back $6 in a year. So the speed of cash is basically 6 squared relative to some of our best capital investments. So it's very easy to invest in these areas because the speed of the cash flow that it generates is so big and so enormous. It becomes very self-funding and becomes a growth engine. It actually creates oxygen for the MAT JV work that you want to do on the other side too.
I don't want to make it sound like your job is easy, but if you can show returns like that, your job is easy.
There's so many businesses in the world, and I talk with a lot of outside businesses as well. Even some of our customers, even some of our valued customers, I'd talk with them and say, hey, here's some things you can do to help you make more money too. Because if our customers make more money doing these type things, it increases our business. So it's all growth. And we've been in business 158 years, and we're going to continue to, we still want to keep growing and growing.
You talk about customer and aligning customers with the segmentation and pricing and all the services and all of those three things that they need, the product, the service, and the financing. Can you just give us an example or two of somebody who's a real success? And you don't have to name the customer, but just give us an example of how pricing really improved the profitability with that customer.
We have customers in ag production, in food service, in retail, in distribution, and in food manufacturing. And then we have a big industrial arm as well. But the way that we are able to deliver and align value with these customers is significant. So when we do this segmentation and say it's basically a pyramid, right? And you come down the pyramid, the closer you get to the top of the pyramid actually says you should be devoting more of the resources of the organization to those customers, because you're probably creating more value for them and with them. The more you do of that, the better it is for them, better it is for us. So it has helped, it's just uncounted number of customers to drive our resources. That could be culinary. We could put our chefs in with a food service operator and help to design new products with them so that their restaurant sales elevate and escalate, which then draws product through us to them to support them. Those are simple little things that we have available. Now, you can't do that to customers who are incredibly transactional, who are going to be penny pinching every last deal you do. You don't offer those services to them. So you align your service offering with those customers where we create value together. And it's really a co-creation of the interest of how we create value together that ultimately winds up with the consumer. And those consumer dollars flow back through your customer back towards us to create the growth that we're trying to do. So the same example I just shared with you, you could replay that time after time, regardless of the industry, and regardless of geography too. It works just so that you align the resources of the business to serve those customers in the way they want to be served. If you align a customer and say they don't actually need that or want that, that creates an entirely different service offering, and your cost to serve is incredibly different. They don't want or need that. That's fine too. Then you structure your pricing to match with what they actually want. But if they want and they need these other capabilities, we have them. Here's where it creates value for you. Here's where it creates value for us. It's a win. When you align like that, it is a win. The customer wins because you're putting the best of yourself as an organization with their organization. And where they don't need you and don't want you, you don't overserve them. Don't take them to the buffet if they've already eaten and they don't want it. Just give them what they want and take care of them in the way that they want to be taken care of.
Because if you have too many people saying, no, we can't do that because they don't understand, that creates a big bottleneck. So whether it's finance or operations or somebody else not understanding what those needs are, their first reaction is be, well, that's something different, rather than, hey, how do we get on board and create the most value for the customer in our department? The team really has to be well coordinated and well oiled.
And the thing that you're really hitting on from an internal perspective is we have to be over communicating our segmentation to our entire teams so that we do serve those customers in the way that we do. And to the point that we will go and we will actually build customer teams. So we'll build a team that serves usually not a customer, but sometimes a customer or a segment of customers. And they're really focused on, this is how we take care of this segment of customer. That's customer service. That's the people in the plant. That's the guy on the shipping dock who knows that the segmentation of this customer versus the other customer. And this guy's truck better get loaded first.
I'll give you one last question that's very selfish on my part because that's to do with education. But one of your big roles is education. You got to, and not just from your pricing team, you have to educate the whole company in why this is so important.
We've built live simulation where we have open market competition between these teams so that it brings out the simulation of the real world as you can imagine when you get in these simulations. It's really good. And on top of that, that's what we do internally, but the external, we always are encouraging our people to reach out and know what is the best practice in the world, because we have a monthly call and we call it the global best practice call. And the global best practice doesn't always mean it's our best practice. And most of the time we're taking something we've learned over here. This is how we should apply it. Here's where we should apply it and take it forward. And then we let our businesses demonstrate once they've implemented that, this is how we do it. This is what it looks like, so that we can propagate that and grow that across our organization and speed that implementation and execution capability back into our businesses faster.
Lynn, I'll tell you, this has been fantastic. You are passionate about this subject. You've grown it within a very large organization, and I really have to applaud you for that. And you're willing to share it with our audience, which I doubly appreciate.
Thanks, Steve. It's one of these areas, being in an organization this large and still having the opportunity to function like an entrepreneur and really grow things in an organic way. It's a wonderful thing to do, I will tell.
Also, you're going to help a lot of other companies, and hopefully some of your customers through this, because they'll be on your bandwagon for sure. That wraps up today's CFO Talk. Thanks, Lynn, for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Steve, thanks for the invitation, and I enjoyed the discussion. Thank you.
CFO.University is a community of member scholars, companies, and trusted advisors committed to the professional development of chief financial officers. Learn more about us at www.cfo.university. Until next time, enjoy, learn, engage. That wraps up today's CFO Talk.